Hello everybody, this is Dr. Cole. It's Sunday afternoon, July 20th, and this is the week 4 announcement for Political Science 1013, summer 2025 on the second 7-week schedule. Okay everybody, the midterm exam is Wednesday the 23rd for 24 hours over units 3 and 4. Also everybody, today, Sunday, as I'm speaking to you, we started our third discussion. We needed to double up and get 2 in before the midterm exam. So we're doing discussion 3 today, Sunday, and tomorrow, Monday. I mentioned I'm not really happy about having to schedule these things for Sunday, but we can't avoid it sometime. We only have 40 odd days to get everything in on this 7-week schedule. So in any case, if you want to post twice tomorrow, Monday the 21st, you should be able to do that with the topic. I think should be something that's of interest to everybody, because it's been in the news quite a bit the past few weeks since the president was inaugurated back a few months ago. So I hope you will go ahead and take care of that. I know there's a lot to squeeze in before the exam on Wednesday. So everybody, the exam Wednesday will cover units 3 on the media and 4 on the Constitution. And I got started on unit 4 last time. I want to finish up today and also mention the 4 articles we've asked you to look at online that will contribute about 15 of the 50 items. Those links are in an email to you and also an announcement up on the course website. Please go ahead and try those links if you've not done so. If there's any issue or problem, I can get that material to you, but please don't wait until the last minute. Okay. And everybody, after that, after Wednesday, we will be getting into the material for exam 3. I will get a series of announcements out Thursday. You can, of course, begin looking at the Unit 5 class notes on the presidency, which should be up on the course website already. But I will be getting a series of announcements out about the assignment for exam 3 and for another discussion along with some other material. We'll be getting that out Thursday once the exam Wednesday is over. All right. Pardon me, everybody. Let me try to finish up on Unit 4 on the Constitution. We had gotten up to the Constitutional Convention last time. Now, at that point, everybody, what we do is we go through the original 7 articles and we talk a bit about the Federalist Papers and comparisons between Greek, English, and American constitutionalism. Okay. The Federalist Papers, numbers 10 and 51, are in the appendix to your textbook. They're discussed fairly extensively in the class notes. Expect a few questions on these. This is James Madison in Federalist Paper number 10 and 51, telling us why the Constitution is the way it is. Okay, a scholar of constitutions throughout history. He was a leading force at the Constitutional Convention, and we get the features of the Constitution and why they are the way they are. That largely comes from James Madison, so I hope you will take a close look at that. Then Greek, English, American constitutionalism, there's a continuity one to the other, and let's discuss that briefly in the class notes. Now, Articles 1, 2, and 3 establish the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We talk about Article 1 in some detail. Okay, we touch on 2 and 3 briefly with taking that material up later in the course, presidency and Supreme Court. And of course, we'll be looking at Congress later, but the Constitution has quite a bit to say about Congress in Article 1 and takes up some other matters as well. So Article 1 is worth looking at closely, but Articles 1, 2, and 3 set out the 3 branches of government. Then in 4, 5, 6, and 7, in Article 4, we have the so-called comity clauses, which sort of gives us ground rules for relations among the states. We have the supremacy clause, which some people say is the provision that gives the Supreme Court power to declare something unconstitutional. We have provisions for amending the Constitution and for ratifying it. And that's Articles 1 through 7. Now, the Anti-Federalists who were wary about the Constitution secured from the Federalists, Madison and Hamilton and their supporters, a promise to add a Bill of Rights to the Constitution. And so it was added within a couple of years after the first 7 articles were ratified. Everyone will have heard of the First Amendment, which covers our right to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom of religion. There are 2 provisions about religion in the First Amendment, and we need to look at both of those carefully and understand the difference between the 2. 4, 5, and 6 grant us certain rights in courts of law and in our dealings with law enforcement. Article 4 especially gives us our right against unreasonable searches and seizures. Now, Amendment 8 confers the protection against cruel and unusual punishment. And that, of course, raises the question of capital punishment, which we discuss in the class notes. Now, there are, I believe 27 amendments in all. We don't discuss all of them. We touch on the amendments that were added after the Civil War, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, especially the 14th Amendment, which is important because it changes the relation between the feds and the states. Some people say that in some respect, the 14th Amendment gives us a new constitution in some respects. So you want to look at those provisions especially, especially the due process and equal protection clauses. Now, everybody, a couple of more things about the 14th. There's a provision there about prohibiting from holding office people who had engaged in rebellion against the United States. Now that applied to Confederate military officers and officials. But more recently, there was an attempt to apply it to Donald Trump after the January 26, 2021 storming of the U.S. Capitol. So there's a discussion of that in there. Also, everybody, I believe there's a discussion of the birthright citizenship issue. Remember, the 14th begins by saying that all persons born and naturalized are citizens. All persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, there's some controversy about that subject to the jurisdiction provision, and the Trump administration is trying to contest birthright citizenship, so-called. I believe there's some discussion of that in the class notes. All right. We also discuss in some detail the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment was adopted after the Kennedy assassination. President Kennedy died almost immediately, but there was some discussion about what might have happened if he had survived as an invalid. There might be a need to make the vice president acting president. So how that's done is discussed in the class notes. It's a somewhat dubious constitutional provision in the opinion of many. There's some question about how it might work. There was an attempt to apply it to Donald Trump near the end of his first presidential term. At least there was some discussion that the 25th Amendment might be invoked against him. But he surely would have denied that he had been incapacitated in any way. All right. So we don't discuss all the constitutional amendments. We try to concentrate on the highlights, what I might say are the most important ones. So be sure you are conversant with those provisions of the Constitution. Then we wind up that unit, everyone, by discussing the issues of civil rights, civil liberties, and federalism, each of which is discussed in a separate chapter of your textbook. So I hope you will look at that in the textbook if you have time. Try to read through it quickly if that's all you can do. Be sure you understand the distinction between civil rights and civil liberties. And we try to highlight in the class notes some of the major areas of controversy in these areas. So take a look at that. Federalism, of course, refers to the relation among levels of government, especially the states versus the feds. Okay, and that comes up in our discussion that we're having today and tomorrow, Monday. Okay. The system of federalism has changed through the years. It changed significantly in the 1930s and 40s, and it's an ongoing controversy. Okay. Very often when we have controversy in our system, the controversy involves should the states or the feds be able to take care of one matter or another. And we run through several areas of policy: elementary and secondary education, higher education, highways, health care, okay, welfare. Okay. What is the relation between the states and the feds in these areas? How has that changed through the years? Okay. All right, remember that, again, that's treated in a separate chapter in your textbook. Now, the readings, okay, on the media, we have an article about Vice President J.D. Vance and his use of X, formerly known as Twitter. He posts fairly extensively. Okay, take a look at that. We have an article about the recently settled lawsuit between President Trump and CBS. Okay, now, everybody, some people think that this is going to result in CBS News becoming more Trump-friendly, okay, because CBS and its parent company Paramount apparently felt that that lawsuit had to be settled before a merger could go through so that Paramount could be taken over by Skydance Media, a movie and television production studio. Students, of course, will have heard in the past few days The Late Show with Stephen Colbert has been canceled. It will end in May 2026. He announced that on the show a couple of nights ago. He will not be replaced. There will be no more Late Show. Now, he, like many of the other late night talk show hosts, have been outspokenly anti-Trump. Everybody is denying that canceling the show had something to do with that, but suspicions have been aroused. I'm sure this is some students will have heard about. Anyway, Eric Wemple, media correspondent for the Washington Post, is the author of your article. He thinks they shouldn't have settled. He thinks CBS could have won had it gone all the way to court. That's something that could have important ramifications going forward. Okay. Now, a couple of constitutional issues we look at. Okay, we have an article by Professor Erwin Chemerinsky of the University of California about what might happen if the Trump administration decided they were going to defy a Supreme Court ruling. It hasn't quite gotten to that point yet, but what if they do? Okay, worth thinking about. So take a look at that. And also, everybody, we will remember a few weeks ago we had the United States bombing of nuclear facilities in Iran. Okay, so in the aftermath of that, Charlie Savage of the New York Times wrote an article about presidential war power, which is a kind of a fraught issue in constitutional law. So I hope you will take a look at that. Okay. It's a really sort of an awkward situation in constitutional law because the Constitution says Congress has the power to declare war, but generally in the post-World War II period, Congress has backed away whenever presidents have taken any military initiative at all. Okay, so that's worth looking at. All right, so those will make up about 15 of your 50 test items on Wednesday. The remainder coming from Units 3 and 4 on the media and the Constitution. 50 items, 45 minutes once you begin the exam, available for 24 hours Wednesday the 23rd. And then after that, we will, as we said, begin getting material out for Exam 3. Okay, everybody, I hope you will take part in the discussion. I wish you good luck on the exam. Otherwise, we will be talking to you about the presidency and the federal bureaucracy when we talk to you again about a week from today. So good luck. Contact me as needed at david.cole@opsu.edu or through the course website. Please go ahead and access those articles. Don't wait till the last minute. Contact me in case there's any problem accessing those articles. Take it easy, study hard. Talk to you in a week or so.